My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey gang, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard about rooming houses, renting out properties by the room, kind of slicing and dicing up a property and having a whole bunch of tenants under one roof without it being an apartment building? Well, if you ever thought about that, if you ever had curiosity about that, tune in today, because that's what our special guest, Forrest Lennhoff, is doing. He's zooming in from just the outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And Forrest has done a great job of building up a very substantial portfolio quite quickly, including multifamily properties, including sober living properties, including, boarding houses. And he also has a property management company. So Forrest, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Forrest, we're doing this interview, probably coming out in September, October of 2025. Give us a little snapshot of what your real estate portfolio looks like, and then you can tell us what the management company kind of looks like as well. So let's start with the portfolio.
Yeah, sure. So I've got quite a bit of rooming house type buildings, like you mentioned. I've got 6 rooming house locations and a sober house.
Nice.
Yeah, some of the rooming houses are mixed use, so they'll have like some storefronts on the first floor. One of the buildings has a laundromat, which I own.
So it's commercial residential type stuff.
Yeah, it's a common setup for it.
Very nice. And then you're also involved in multifamily. Is that as a limited partner or a general partner? What are your multifamily investments look
Yeah,
like?
so the multifamily, I've actually, I actually just sold last week some of the like standalone apartment buildings that I had. But that's what I started in was small, buy and hold apartment buildings that had some nice value add to them. So I historically have done, not by plan necessarily, but like a 2 to 3 year hold on some of the smaller apartment buildings, which allowed me to work my way up into some bigger stuff.
Very cool. So so these days you're focusing more on the rooming house type idea. It sounds like that's as far as your personal portfolio. What about the property management company? What do you guys manage?
Sure. Yeah. So we're definitely we're focusing on cash flow, and therefore that's brought me to the rooming houses. They tend to have a little bit more margin on them due to the headaches that come with them. But from the property management standpoint, I mean, we're doing if it rents long term, we'll manage it. We're not that interested in Airbnb or anything like that, but we like our regular apartment rentals, room rentals. We do have sober living under management, which again it's similar but very different also from the room rentals. And then there's also some commercial properties and mixed use stuff sprinkled in there, but the majority of it is just your classic apartment buildings, mixed with rooming houses. So,
And what kind of geographic area do you guys cover with both your portfolio and with the management company?
yeah, so the management company manages the greater Boston market. We go as far north right now as Manchester, New Hampshire. Um, I have some stuff in Framingham, Mass, Dorchester, Mass, and then the North Shore and Merrimack Valley we're pretty well established in.
Very nice. Okay, good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the whole rooming house side of things, because that seems to be where your main focus is these days for your personal portfolio. So maybe explain to us how that business work, how the kind of what kind of properties you have, how many rooms they are, what kind of tenant base makes up the clientele. It's interesting that you've got mixed use type buildings. So just maybe paint us a picture of what these look like.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, you mentioned in earlier just the idea of renting rooms and like chopping up a building into room rentals. And there are definitely people that do that. That's not historically how we've done it. We've purchased existing rooming houses essentially that were, for the most part, not exclusively purpose built for that purpose. It's something that was originally built as workforce housing and has continued to serve some sort of purpose like that. But for the most part, it feels like you're in college dorms or something in terms of the layout. It's rooms with dead, solid front doors and deadbolts and then your common areas. So, our tenants are a mixture of, single adults, pretty much single adults. We get people that are on fixed income, Social Security, disability, or just people that are looking to, avoid the high price of a one bedroom apartment in the area. We're probably like, maybe like 50% of the price of a one bedroom apartment in the area. I'm sure you could find something cheaper than that, but the demand is high and the prices are high, and so you're having an all utilities included room rental. It's low maintenance. It's easy to budget for. Makes a lot of sense for a lot of people.
Yeah, most definitely. So, Forrest, what I'm hearing you say is that you're typically purchasing existing rooming houses that are licensed as such and all that kind of good stuff. They got a history of doing this. What are the pros and cons of doing that versus the whole rent by the room concept that's becoming very, very popular these days? And I don't know, I'm not familiar with the laws and regulations. Are there regulations against doing that in Massachusetts, or how do things look there?
Yeah, and so that's just it. Is there definitely are rules about renting by the room. I believe in Massachusetts, it's when you exceed five individual renters on separate leases in a single unit, it becomes a rooming house essentially, which needs to be licensed and inspected and held to a certain standard regarding fire safety.
Hmm.
Um, Different municipalities might have different rules regarding that, and I'm sure across, the rest of the country, every area has its own rule. But we've seen some of the college towns try and crack down a little bit on that, saying that no more than four unrelated people can live together. And so, there's definitely a lot more risk, and you have to pay attention to the rules that you're potentially violating or staying within, working within, if you're going to do it yourself in an apartment. Generally, my guess would be that, so, if you're renting out a three-bedroom apartment by the room, you're probably fine. But, if you're renting out larger buildings as such, we have buildings as big as 76 units in one location.
Wow. Holy
Um,
smokes.
and that building it's got like a little hotel lobby style entrance with laundry, a large kitchen with multiple stoves, some commercial style bathrooms, and it's a lot of upkeep, and so you have to be prepared for that. You don't see it as much on a smaller three-bedroom apartment, but there's still, you might have to manage chores between the three tenants so that they don't, the place doesn't get nasty. And, that's something that we provide in our larger locations.
So you've got this huge one that's 76 units. That is the biggest rooming house I've heard of, but I haven't heard about that many. So what would you say is like the average size or number of units in a typical rooming house?
I mean, we've got them anywhere from 11 units up to that 76 units. So, I mean, I've got a couple that are smaller on the like 10, 15, 20 side. There's definitely a couple of them that are in the 40 unit range. And then I've got two of them that are up in that 60, 70 unit range. So,
Interesting. Okay, so these are rent by the rooms on steroids.
oh yeah.
Okay, so let's just so I can get my head around this, let's talk about maybe one of the smaller ones,
Mhm.
15, 20 units, whatever, around that size. So what do your tenants get for that? What is their like space? What is communal? How do you divvy up bathrooms and kitchens and TV rooms or living rooms? Like how does that logistically
Sure.
work out?
So, it's not an apartment that's been rented by the room, so it's pretty clear cut. Everybody rents a unit in the building, which is their room, and that's got the solid door on it with a number and a deadbolt, and that's the place that's their private room rental. And when we turn over the rooms, we put down new floors, fresh paint, blinds, make sure everything's in working order, and then we provide them with a bed, a bed frame. Oftentimes, we'll provide a dresser and a refrigerator as well. Outside of the room would be the common areas. So you've got your hallways, kitchens, bathrooms, and those, we don't really monitor how those are used necessarily. There's no like sign up chart for the kitchen or whatever. But we do have cleaners that come in daily and clean all those locations.
That
Um,
was going to be another question. Is
Actually,
yeah.
it's a requirement of lodging houses that the common areas are cleaned every 24 hours. So, we those are the things that we provide. We also have utilities included, and we generally provide Wi-Fi as well. Um, and then, aside from that, we're basically, I mentioned we've been buying buildings that were owned, previously working as rooming houses. And so, there's been a lot of rooming houses that have been changing ownership over the last couple of years. And
Mhm.
the classic building that we've encountered is an owner's had it for 30 years. They've not done much for updates. It's,
And they've kind of had it with the rooming house business.
had it with the rooming house business. So, we're able to come in and give it a breath of fresh air. Give it a coat of paint, replace floors, update bathrooms, stuff like that. And so we're able to really go in there and make the place a lot nicer with without doing anything too crazy.
Hey there, if you're a capital raiser, a syndicator, or a fund manager, and you're looking for a steady flow of incoming accredited investor leads, then go ahead, grab a free copy of my new book, How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month Without Cold Calling, Networking, or Chasing People. You can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. Again, that's the number 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. Okay, I can see a lot of benefits to this, and you got people going in cleaning on a daily basis. Do the rooms typically do people typically have their own like mini fridge and microwave in their own room? Is
Yeah,
that up
that's
to
a pretty
them?
standard setup. One thing that a lot of people might have heard about rooming houses is things like daily and weekly rates.
Mm.
Although those might exist somewhere, we've found that like almost all of our tenants are using it as permanent housing. It's just another form of affordable housing, in our market. So that's one thing that's changed, over a long period of time as a transition from it being a more temporary type housing to a permanent type housing. Probably in relation to the cost of living increasing.
So, what would you say is the average duration of a tenancy for your rooming house tenants?
I mean, average it'd probably be a year or more. I mean, we have tenants that have lived with us, the entire time that we've owned since I got into rooming houses, 4 or 5 years. So, but we certainly get people that move in and move out the next month. But that's the outlier, not what's standard. So.
All right, I can see the big benefits or what's in this for you as a real estate investor for these kind of properties. I mean, if you've got 70 tenants in one building, each one renting a room, it's about 50% of what a one bedroom apartment might cost. You can fit a lot more of these rooms in than you could the equivalent for a one bedroom apartment. So financially, I can see the cash flow being pretty exciting with these. What are the biggest pains in the butt about this business for you, Forrest?
Yeah, so there's definitely, although our average tenant stays longer as permanent housing, there's certainly going to be more turnover, with a month-to-month room rental than there would be on a 12-month lease. And so, we chasing the vacancy rate, trying to do everything we can to keep vacancy rates down. And then that coupled with, it is the most affordable type of housing in our market, and therefore, you know, it attracts a tenant that's going to have a little bit lower income traditionally. And so, we'll also run into issues with collections. And so, there's if you hit 100%, if your building's 100% occupied and you collect 100% of your rent, like, yes, the numbers are amazing. And that's the biggest pain is trying
Right.
to get as close to that as possible. And so there's the expectation is when you buy one of these buildings, they have a higher, earning potential than an apartment building of the same price. And it's because you take on those risks. Um,
Right.
Aside from that, with, if when housing people that are, maybe on disability income or, have reasons in their life that they're not able to produce a larger income, there might be things like mental health or substance use issues that can come with some of those things. Obviously not all the time, but dealing with some of that stuff can be difficult. Behavior issues from tenants who are going through something. That can be quite disruptive as it's communal living. So
Yeah.
and
So how straightforward is it to evict someone?
so we're in Massachusetts, so it is the same eviction process as any other apartment.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are definitely other locations, other states that's not the case, but yeah, they have their same rights as any other tenant.
Okay. All right. No, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not all sunshine and flowers, but overall, it's working really well. I was going to ask, are there, from time to time, I'm sure there's issues between tenants because they're kind of living in very close quarters. Does that come up very much, or do most tenants do all right?
I mean, like any disagreement between two people where you're not one of them, it's difficult to rectify. We normally we'll listen, and if we can help the situation, we will. If it's an issue that's bothering multiple people, then we'll obviously step in and make a decision that's best for the most people in the building. But for the most part, people are able to work their own stuff out. Normally the ones where they can't, it's because they're causing a major issue that has to be addressed separately than just probably with the court system or something. But um, you know, this is we manage these for other people as well, so it's not just what I purchase. And basically, my wife and I have attracted quite a large number of clients who also have rooming houses and are chasing those higher dollar values on their rental properties, and it's helped us really grow the management business.
Well, I would imagine that would be a huge service that you're providing people because the biggest hassle, from what I'm hearing with these rooming houses, is the management side of things. So if you're taking that on for other clients, I can see that being a huge plus for them.
Yeah, exactly. So, most of our clients who own rooming houses, wouldn't own them if they, wouldn't have chosen to buy them if we hadn't agreed to manage them for them.
Ah,
And so, that's been, beneficial to the business and beneficial to the owners we work with as they've been able to buy, as the market price of buildings has increased, so it's been a little bit harder to find deals in the greater Boston market. And so we've had a lot of people look at rooming houses as an alternative option. So it's allowed people to buy some things they might not have otherwise bought, and allowed us, so our investors have been able to grow, and us as a business have been able to grow as well.
I'm just curious, Forrest, is there a way, do you know an approximation of how many rooming houses there are in and around Boston?
I don't have that number for you. I'll tell you in Lawrence, we have about, let's see, I have one, two, three, I've got like seven rooming houses in Lawrence.
How big is the population of Lawrence?
Ooh, I do not have that number off the top of my head, but
It's kind of a suburb of Boston, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
Lawrence, Massachusetts population is 88,000 per.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
I mean, we have probably about 70% of the market of rooming houses in Lawrence. Um, we
So
don't
there's
have.
10, probably 10 or 11 of them in the city then.
Yeah, I think there's five of them that I know of that operate separate from us. But
Hmm.
we have some pretty big ones as well. So I've got the 76 unit one that I mentioned is in Lawrence, and I've got another one down the street from it that's 70 units as well. So, we've got a pretty large holding of what's available in Lawrence, and it's been great. We've been able to establish really good relationships with the city and inspectional services,
Mm.
and turned around some of their buildings that they've been historically, had been problem buildings for them.
Oh, I can see that being a huge value for the city, having a good operator in there. Awesome, Forrest. So as we're wrapping things up, if people would like to find out more about you, if they're in and around Boston and they're thinking about getting into rooming houses or they're looking for property management, where should people go?
Yeah, so they can find us at lenhoffproperties.com. We've got an office in Salem, Massachusetts, and an office in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And if they're looking at rooming houses or apartments or just trying to get involved in real estate, I'd be happy to talk with anybody about what they're trying to do.
Good stuff, Forrest. Thank you so much for being on the show and kind of showing us all about this idea of, well, I'll call them rooming houses on steroids because those are some pretty big rooming houses. Thanks for
Yeah,
being on the show.
yeah. Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.